One system, three outcomes. Why did Hong Kong burn? Macau prosper? And Taiwan now stand on the edge of war? Three places. One experiment. A promise called one country, two systems. Hong Kong rose in defiance and descended into chaos. Macau played it quiet and kept its peace. Now Taiwan stands at the crossroads, with everything to gain, and everything to lose. In this video, we rewind history's split-screen moment. Why did two cities under the same rule live out such different fates? And what does this tell us about Taiwan's future, war or peace, negotiation or destruction? This is not a theoretical debate. It's about strategy, survival, and how the next chapter in Chinese unification could be written, not in blood, but in wisdom. This isn't just history. It's the wind before a storm, the tremor before the quake. If this topic matters to you, help us reach more people. Give it a like, share it with someone curious, and hit subscribe to see more in-depth stories like this. Let's dive in. 1. The brave, but incomplete narrative. Let's start with Wang Zhian, a well-known, truth-telling dissident reporter from China. With millions of followers overseas, he's built a reputation for cutting through propaganda and speaking uncomfortable truths to power. He's sharp, fearless, and banned in both mainland China and its enemy Taiwan. That alone earns him respect. And when he talked about the death of one country, two systems in Hong Kong in his two new YouTube videos, many nodded in agreement. His reporting? Clear, well-researched, and gripping. But there's a huge blind spot in his reporting here, one so big, it misleads even the sharpest minds. Wang never mentions Macau. You cannot explain why one system failed without asking why it worked next door. 2. What Wang gets right. And what he misses. First of all, yes, Wang is right, Hong Kong's democracy movement radicalized. After prolonged unrest, Beijing clamped down. The original one country, two systems collapsed. But to call Hong Kong one country, one system is wrong. Today, Hong Kong is not Beijing. It's not Shenzhen or Shanghai. Politically, yes, Beijing has tightened its grip. But economically? Hong Kong still runs on free market capitalism. Its courts still run differently. Its people still live differently. So let's call it what it is, one country, 1.5 systems in politics. One country, two systems in the economy. Not a total collapse. Not a total success. Something messier. Something real. And that remaining freedom, however incomplete, is still deeply meaningful to the people of Hong Kong. 3. Macau. The missing piece. Now shift your eyes to Macau. Same Chinese Communist Party. Same unification. Same one country, two systems. But in Macau, people worked with the central government. No protests stormed the legislature. No riots paralyzed the city. No national security law was imposed from above. Macau wrote and passed its own. And the result? Quietly and steadily, Macau thrived. From lagging far behind before the handover, it has now overtaken Hong Kong in GDP per capita. A silent success story, too often ignored. So what made the difference? Trust, or the absence of it? It's the classic chicken or egg dilemma. Did Hong Kong challenge the central government because it never trusted Beijing? Or did Beijing lose trust because Hong Kong kept testing the limits? Maybe both? But one thing is clear, Macau didn't poke the dragon. And in return, the dragon stayed calm. 4. Don't blame Hong Kong. Let's be fair. This isn't the fault of the Hong Kong people. Because one country, two systems was always a paradox, a fragile dance between two political worlds. Never in history had a socialist authoritarian power promised capitalist democracy within its own borders. It was bold. It was creative. And it was always walking a tightrope. So maybe one failure in Hong Kong and one success in Macau is already a miracle. Not a contradiction, but a sign of how daring, and fragile, this experiment was from the start. And maybe, just maybe, this story isn't over yet. Now the world holds its breath, and watches Taiwan, the place The Economist once called the most dangerous place on earth. 5. Why Macau worked. But Hong Kong failed. Macau trusted Beijing, or at least, didn't challenge it. In 2009, It passed its own national security law, quietly and without fanfare. No street clashes. No political crisis. And the sky didn't fall. Hong Kong, by contrast, resisted for years. In 2003, 500,000 people took to the streets against Article 23 legislation, drafted not by Beijing, but by Hong Kong itself. That moment set the tone for a decade of deadlock. Protest met pressure. Pressure met protest. What if Hong Kong had passed its own national security law on its own terms? With its own balance between liberty and loyalty? We'll never know. But what we do know is this: the longer the standoff dragged on, the deeper the mistrust grew. Beijing saw defiance and tightened its grip. Hong Kongers saw repression and pushed back harder. The middle ground crumbled. And with it, the space for autonomy vanished. The built-in contradiction of one country, two systems didn't just simmer beneath the surface, it exploded with every cycle of unrest. Protest fueled crackdown. Crackdown fueled protest. And each explosion cracked the foundation further. What began as a bold promise twisted into a feedback loop of fear, anger, and mistrust, until the idea collapsed under its own weight. 6. Taiwan. The bigger stakes. Now here's the twist: the most important player in this story isn't Hong Kong or Macau. It's Taiwan. Because Taiwan is watching, and making up its mind. But it may be learning the wrong lesson. Back in 2020, President Tsai Ing-wen seized on the chaos in Hong Kong to fuel her re-election. She held it up as a warning: this is what happens when you trust Beijing. And many in Taiwan agreed. They looked at Hong Kong and concluded, one country, two systems is a trap. But they overlooked Macau. Maybe for political reasons. Because if you look closely, Macau had the weakest starting hand, and the strongest finish. In the 1980s, Taiwan was offered the most generous version of one country, two systems. It could even keep its military. Hong Kong had the second best deal, backed by a formal treaty with Britain. And Macau? It got the crumbs. Few promises. No international guarantees. Almost no one paid attention. And yet today, Macau is thriving. Hong Kong is faltering. And Taiwan, if it refuses to talk, might face the worst outcome of all: war. That's the paradox. Taiwan had the best offer. But now, with the meteoric rise of mainland China, it is rapidly losing its bargaining power. And if it waits too long, if it refuses to even sit at the table, it may end up with no deal at all. Not one country, two systems. Not even one country, one system. Just war. The lesson isn't that one country, two systems can't work. It's that trust matters. Timing matters. And if either side pushes too far, the space for peace disappears. Hong Kong lost its middle ground. Let Taiwan not lose its peace. Macau shows us a path. Quiet. Orderly. Negotiated. Let's learn from all three stories, not just the one that grabs the headlines. Macau chose peace. Hong Kong chose confrontation. Taiwan now stands before a choice: talk or war. What do you think? What should Taiwan do? Drop your thoughts below. And don't forget to watch Wang Zhian's original videos. He's brilliant, but let's complete the picture. And if this story gave you something to think about, like, share, and subscribe. Help us bring more nuanced conversations like this to the world.